Angela? Angela, where are you? You ready? Okay. I gotta get the Eagle staffs at the front first. Okay. So you might as well sit a bit. Did you want to get up here?
Yeah. I don't know, just get the Eagle Sauce at the front, here in the front door. It's like, I don't know.
Just all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started with the grand entry. If we can have the Eagle staffs taken to just outside the front door. So if we can have the Eagle staffs as part of the grand entry. Once that happens, we will get started. Migach, thank you. Who's carrying a briefcase?
Not here, though.
Four.
Backtrack. Oh. I didn't see you have that on here. You just left it or you were busy.
Oh, I know. They told me to sit over there, so put it down.
Okay.
Then somebody else told me, you go over there. It's in the corner, don't move.
Okay, so you're good. You're good.
Two more. Nancy Havoc.
And yeah, and Dave Root. Where is he? I seen him. Yeah. Guess he brought it in.
You brought it in?
Yeah, Dave did.
I'm pretty sure I saw
Do
him.
another reminder to people to go get their flags.
Okay. And another reminder, chiefs or proxies, if you can pick up your flag and you're invited to join the grand entry. Two more flags. I'm not sure. It looks like the Anishinaabe Eagle staff and the Independents. We're fairly certain we saw Dave Root. And so again, chiefs, your flags. You are invited to join the grand entry. We will get started just in a few seconds here. Anybody seen Dave Root? Maybe he's out in the hall. If someone can let him know. As soon as the Eagle staffs are just outside the entranceway, right in the middle.
Okay, because before they even come in, these two speak.
Will you introduce them?
Yeah. Or Angela's supposed to be doing that one. Where is that Dave Root?
I just saw him too.
Yeah.
Was it, no. Angela's tied up. What's her name? Say Angela again?
Sally.
Sally, I'll get Sally.
Yeah.
Sally, I'll put you on the spot. Can you have a look for Dave Root?
Okay. Or maybe somebody else. Okay. Oh, there he is. Come on, Dave. Okay. Having his coffee. No.
Last night, she said, the changing plan. Just gonna stand behind. I said, you better talk to him.
Words before else. Thanksgiving.
We're starting a new path here.
Are we ready, Angela? Okay, so to begin our day, welcome everyone. We're going to start out with the words before else by Olive Elm, and then the Thanksgiving by Mike Mitchell. So
Don't what you la de that what an hela don't got your question go don't go so that in your ticket go on his lot. Cut you tin hela don't and you can all haji. Second got a go ni gong load. Jinisagoni gong lailan and so go ya is on talo hunjada. Second you kia we I don't hit. Cut you tin hela don't and our heat. Ne what go a guana chin con kahi coke. Lunde goes. Ne ala tuni achi ne kwatunoni ja wano chi no to jare nen sungoya disum kala ditin hela do nen onu kwa tok ne ji sungoni ne to yodoni yawa do yadwa ko kan kena kanu waktam sla at kali wadi hanto ne gadio ne jot kunchi to na hela kali ditin hela do nen hoyo kwa ne dwat sta yeli huwa ne ka ta na na te het wali huwa ne ka nen sungoya disu ne guya dwat ste hoyo kwa ne ka dio ne dwat na heland kala dia tin helad nen kalonde su ne kwat ko ko na chi kon kalonde su ha wata ne chi tuno ni dwe se nen kwa no take kala dia tin helad nen kundilio su ne chi sgoni ne tonioti ni gong lo dan chi ni Isagoni kong lela nen sa lo cha da de sungoya iso. Sigon ko da wa de kan kena aranalsli da wa da hunjo. Kala dia tin hela do nen o ne kanus. Ne kwat ka ne ko wana se kwat he ka ni hale ka ni ga ne ka sa no ni ne wa da na hela do ne chi. No ni ne to ni chi ni sagoni kong lela sa lo cha da de to no yo to ha ke chi. Ya taun do na taun li wa ta di kan ke. Con chịu chịu hôn cha đến nhà cái này có này cái nó cái điều này chỉ được vật chất con chỉ được vật là hay là cái điều trên hay là đúng nên họ chỉ đang hát xuống nên hát để chú ấy cái thôi là đi đâu nào là cái sự điều khi này cũng lâu lắm no what want cái này có no nãy để cái này hoa cá xuống có nị cái hawi đúng điều trên hay là đúng nên chú chỉ stop quá nên cái slon đó này Odi kwa na da so to ni sla de kwa ko yu kwa no te na te kan to ni ha yo chi sto kwa lo no chi ga no to kyo no chi yo dia da sto nya to ki wi chi ka lo ya ne ka dio ne chi tet kon chi tot wa na helat ka le di tin helat do nen yo ki sot ko sun de ke ka wo ni da chi to te ya ko swat he do kan ke do te yo kala lo de kas la di don ya le he do se wa do ki ya se ba we la di don ni non to na di yo kala sne to chi to te ko swat he do chi ni ko ha he ne ka di re chi chot kon chi to to na he la do he kala de to na he la do nen et wa chi ko de ke ka wa ni da no ni ne to ta ho swat he do kan ke na wa te kala di tin he la do nen la di sa ka yon de sa ne chi sgoni ne to ni yo chi ni sagoni kon la ne cha lo cha da de ne su ko ya di so sgoni ne do no chi a ko he kan ke na yo da li ha to sa ka we la wa le ha se sono nya ta chi yo mun cha ne ka dio ne chi to ko chi da do na he la to he kale di tin he la do nen ka ye ni on ko dak ne chi to na ta ti se chi ko no ti stat yo ki ni kon la ti se da ka na te na yin ko ya da kala yung kiyawi he chi na yung kwali ho ta ha ke ne chi kan ke na te dio to ho chong e wa dung ki yo yan le chi yo chi te twa ya to le ne ka dio ne te ro na heland kala de to na heland nen skanya dali ne chi laun ha sa swa lat ste kan ke na chong wa ta la kwa ne ka dio ne chi ko te twa na heland no ye se ro we nen swa ya di sum te tona hela do nya de wa ni slak chi get ko chi tolo na down na ten hia yung ko ya ta ken haste kon to o ja ke squat kan la do Ne ka ti dot kon chi tono yo to ha ke ne hungo ni ko la chi. Dat wada na hela to ha ke nya de wa nis la ke chi. Ni sung kon de lo nen sung ko ya ti sa go tolo yo na down. Hi chi na ting ko ya de ken haste. Kon to ja ke ti ko dali. Danet.
Higi gari wain da ko. Tang se giri wa sara ko. Na gari a gwe ko jino da ya sa tsroyat. Jino re hum jak. A gwe ko jino re ya de garu ya de. A gwe ko wa gari wa ye no na da wa shi. I think it's important to give a very fast translation of the Thanksgiving acknowledgement that she had just made so that we're all clear. She started with Mother Earth and all the elements of creation, the bird life, the animal life, all creatures, all humans, thanking the Creator for everything that we get as we travel throughout the day. We honor all living beings. And so she went into great detail individually. On our behalf, she gave thanks, and that was the my response was on our side was to accept all the words that were spoken. Tony Gawanage, Donato.
Miigwech, the Eagle staffs and the flags can now be posted.
I walk away.
Hey, Sagal, good morning. Hey, Sagal. Yeah, that's fine.
Looking for space for one. Oh, that one right there? There's a all red flag right there.
Morning, again. Good morning again.
Thank you so much for this.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
Yes, I'm happy to be there this morning. So. Sego, good morning to everyone. Ani. I hope everybody is well this morning, enjoyed this morning as we kick off our 3 days. Before we begin, we're going to ask Cook Miss Stephanie Sandy to do some territorial remarks for us. So good morning to all of you. We're going to begin. If you could get probably the doors closed at the back, that would be great. There's a lot of noise coming from the hallway. So join me in welcoming Cook Miss Stephanie Sandy to the podium.
Anin, Bojo. Good morning, Minogajap. Stephanie Sandy Dishnakas. It's a beautiful day today. I am so excited. I've been thinking about this gathering for many weeks. Nimki Panashe Kwam, Majikning Donjaba, Gigun Dodam, and Ishnabak Kwandao. I'm a resident here of Rama and a proud member as a Nishnabakwe, to be here in front of everyone. I was thinking of all of you yesterday or last night as I was coming to here this morning and thinking about the power that we have in this room, but how we are so honored to have our chiefs, our gimas, to come here and speak and gather and talk about the significant things that are on the topics of Anishinaabe Nation across the country. And I wanted to offer my prayers as well. But I know that you all have a big job, and I know each and every one wants to be heard, and that what we say is for our communities that we are in leadership with. They're counting on each and every one of you to do what is best for our communities. And with that, you know, with the sunrise ceremony that we had this morning, we thought of each and every one. And we thought of your community members as well. I offered my prayers there, but I will offer my prayers again today, this morning with the assembly, and thinking about how grateful we are to be here and to be walking that good road that Minabamatsuin. Anin Bojo, Nimki Pineshe Kwam, Jikning Donjaba, Gigun Doda Manish Nabakwan Dao. Chimiquach Kajemnado for another new day. Chimiquach for that sunrise that gave us a beautiful sunrise and another new day to look at. And we give thanks for our ancestors, our grandmothers and grandfathers, Nokmas Nanan, Minmama Shomas Nanan, for their guidance and their teachings. We give thanks to those grandfather teachings that were gifted to us as well. Zagi Wawen, Nandin Damon, Zon Gediwin, Dawin, Gwegwatsuwin, Basanmon, Nabakawin, and Dabwin, those grandfather teachings that guide us, that we live by. We say Chimiquach Gijemnado to give thanks for those 4 directions, Wabanon, Jawinon, Abigishman, and Giwenon. Chimigwach for those medicines, the Sama, Gishik, Shkadewash, and Wingash. Chimigwach for those teachings of kindness that fills our heart first thing in the morning. And we give thanks for that honesty that travels with it and the sharing that we do so well, and that strength that we have as Anishinaabe. We give thanks. Chikajemnado. Chimigwach for those elements, Mother Earth, key the land that we walk on, that Nibish, the water, Mother Earth's blood. We give thanks for that nourishment. Chimigwach for that fire, Ishkode, that helps us. And it's that fire that's within us as well. We say Chimigwach. And Chimigwach to note in the wind that carries that new plants, the new growth, the seeds across Mother Earth. We say Chimigwach. Chimigwach Kijemnado for watching over our communities while we're here in the meetings and taking care of our families, taking care of the ones who are sick, taking care of the ones who are grieving the loss of loved ones, and then the ones who are struggling with their addictions and their mental health. And we think of the ones who are homeless and houseless, our brothers and sisters, and that they had warmth and they have food. Our prayers go out to each and every one. We always include all our relations, every living thing. Kinog again, Annie Nonik. We include them. That gives us that balance and harmony. And we also want to give thanks to our families, to our sons, to our daughters, to our spouses, the daughters and sons' spouses. And we think of those grandchildren that we have and great-grandchildren, our siblings, our brothers and sisters. We think of all of them and how grateful we are to have that love that we receive, and we give that love back, and how beautiful it is to give love and kindness to all humanity. We say Chimigwach, and I want to give thanks to Gijemnado for giving us a good day, Minogishiga Nungam, and that it is going to be a good day that we walk on to that good life in Minabamadzu. And to honor the 4 directions, we say Chimigwach, 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 Chimigwach. It's going to be a good day, and it's going to be a beautiful day to share camaraderie. Miigwach, Miigwach, Miigwach. Miigwach.
Yamagoa Miigwech, to our knowledge keeper. But I would now like to invite Chief Williams to the podium to provide some welcoming remarks on behalf of the territory and the community in which we are in.
Honey Bojo, Gima Noash Kong, Ted Williams, and Digikas, Rama, Manjikaning, Donjaba, Gigo Dodem. Before I begin with my remarks, I'd like to acknowledge the Deputy Mayor from Ramera Township, and which surrounds us, to bring his words of welcome.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Keith Bell. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Ramera Township and grew up in this area. I would like to start with greeting everybody and saying welcome to this wonderful community. It's been a partner of ours for many years in Ramera Township. We were just talking last weekend that our forefathers fought in World War II together. So our history goes back a long, long way. A special thanks to you, Chief Williams of Rama First Nations, who again, we've been through many collaborations, including the building of this casino and supporting a lot of things collaboratively through our 2 towns, our 2 municipalities. The county of Simcoe deeply values relationships with all First Nation partners and remains committed to strengthening the connection through respect, collaboration, and ongoing dialogue. With the significant changes and growth we are seeing across our region, our province, and our country, your leadership, partnership, and lived experience are more important than ever. Gatherings like these, opportunities to share knowledge, listen, learn, and work together towards shared goals are truly invaluable. Just going to share a small story about what I learned in my life. I brought something called the Dragon Boat Festival to our community here in Aurelia. And again, Rama was very, very supportive of that endeavor for the few years that we ran it. One of the things that I did learn about it is I packed a boat full of people that were from my local gym. They were powerlifters, they were athletes. They had a history of just being champions. And I thought I was going to win this tournament hands down. And so what I learned quickly is our first race was against a breast survivors team who were all average age of about 65. These ladies, we thought we were going to destroy them. As we looked up, we were halfway to the finish line and they were crossing, celebrating already. And what we learned is that egos will get you nowhere. And what we had to do is understand that you have to work in unison. And in Dragon Boat festivals and in the boats, the paddles are supposed to work in unison together all at one time. We look like a caterpillar going through the water, and we were just pushing water the nose down, which is the worst position you could be in. But we did learn that we had to work together in unison, and you'll get a lot further. You move more gracefully through the water. So this is an important venture that you guys continue and work together and collaborate together. I welcome you, and I wish you well. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Deputy Mayor Bell. Unfortunately, the mayor and warden couldn't be here. He's busy at the warden's office. Now listen up here. I'm not going to get this chance again for a long time. First of all, on behalf of my community, the Chippewas Rama, my council, we want to extend a warm welcome to all of the chiefs, to all of the citizens of our strong First Nations represented here in the province that we call Ontario. I do want to also acknowledge a distinguished gentleman that was chief when I was a young council member back in 1982. Yeah, I've been hanging around that long, off and on. I'd like to acknowledge former Chief Norm Stinson. He's just over there. No, I don't know if you can stand up, Norm. Norm's leadership has brought us a long way, and he's been involved in a leadership capacity for going on 50 years. So we appreciate Norm and the work that he has done over the years. And I'd also like to acknowledge former Chief Lorraine McRae, former Chief Sharon Stinson Henry, and former Chief Rod Naganosh-Ban, and all individuals who have made a significant contribution to the welfare and the success of our First Nation. I do want to acknowledge as well historical facts that need to be spoken. The 1923 Williams Treaty, and that entails First Nations from Scugog. I see Scugog, Chief Kelly is here, Curve Lake, Chief Hockaday is here. I know Chief Laurie Carr from Hiawatha is around, and also Alderville. And then our Chippewa Tri-Council as well, as part of the Williams Treaty, First Nations, Georgina Island, and Beausoleil, Christian Island, or Chimnasing. I don't know where you're from, Chief, today, but Chief Sandy's just over here. I like to joke around with her. I've known her for 40 years, maybe, something like that. And one time she was standing up and she was addressing the crowd, and I said to her, all of her 4'10" stature, I said, "It's okay, Chief, you can stand up." She says, "I am, Ted." She's a very good friend, and we love her dearly. I do also need to say that, Chippewas of Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island, we are a long-standing alliance going over 200 years. I had mentioned at the golf tournament yesterday that the land that we were golfing on was land that was part of the first reserve that the colonizers had started, the Coldwater Reserve. And so we are close to our brothers and sisters at Beausoleil and Georgina Island. And, we have a strong relationship in history together. Welcome to Casino Rama. I want to say miigwech to Casino Rama for providing the facilities, the accommodation, and doing the best that they can do to provide the needs of a gathering such as this. I want to acknowledge the Chiefs of Ontario staffers as well, and my own senior staffs who have been working with you to help coordinate the gathering this week. I can't remember the last time the Chiefs of Ontario was here, but I think it was about 30 years ago, in around when the casino was born. This year, the casino will celebrate 30 years on the 31st of July. And to tell you that, before the casino came here, you could tell when you entered the reserve, and you could tell when you left the reserve. A number of chiefs from across the country have come here to find out what we have done, how did we do this, and several of them have said to me, where does the reserve begin? And where does it end? Because in some of our communities, unfortunately, it's very definable. Here in Rama, because of what we have accomplished, it's not so. But we're always willing and open to share what we have found to be successful, and that will continue because we need to learn from each other, because we learn from others in order to get to the point where we are today. I'd like to acknowledge the regional chief, who is a good friend of the Chippewas of Rama, for his leadership the last 2 years as well. And finally, chiefs, all of you, if there's anything that we can do to make your stay a little more enjoyable, with the exception of telling you where the machines are paying out, because I don't have that information, okay? I don't. Yeah. But if there's anything that we can do for any of you, by all means, reach out to myself and/or the casino staff and/or any of the staff that we have here. I do see a couple of members of our Young Youth Council over here, and I'd like to acknowledge them as well. Thanks for helping out at the golf tournament yesterday. Miigwech. Miigwech. Anyway, let's have a good few days. Miigwech, before I forget, for the sunrise ceremony this morning as well, all that participated. It was the first sunrise ceremony, which was kind of like a drive-through. Yeah, have you ever seen a drive-through or sunrise ceremony? You've seen it there this morning. There's cars going by. Anyway, we do things different here in Chippewas of Rama, okay? Anyway, enjoy your time here in our community, and let's have some fruitful meetings in the next few days. Miigwech, 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 miigwech.
Chief Williams for that. I thought the same thing this morning at the sunrise as the cars were going through, coming in under the awning there. So this is pretty cool. I haven't experienced that one yet, so I'm glad we were thinking the same. So good morning to all of you. Sego, Ani, Moju, what's going to I want to acknowledge all of our leadership in the room, our elders, our knowledge keepers, our special guests. I want to thank this morning for our drum, the Ahando Galiadeco that was done this morning by our knowledge keepers and setting the tone for our next 3 days as we come together, as we here at the Chiefs of Ontario with our Chiefs Assembly. It's a great pleasure, as always, to join in with all of you in our 2026 Assembly. I also want to acknowledge the hard work of our staff who's put this together. And as Chief Williams has mentioned, you know, the great staff at Rama and our Chiefs of Ontario staff and all of the hard work that's been going on. I heard this morning at the sunrise, one of the knowledge keepers was talking about how, you know, they just came into the room and were like, oh my God, they're just so much set up. And it's such a big reflection on the hard work that goes into bringing us together for the important work that we have to do. I'm honored to be here with all of you here in this beautiful territory, the Chippewas of the Rama First Nation. On behalf of the Chiefs of Ontario, our leadership, I want to say miigwech to the Rama First Nation for hosting us in this beautiful territory and welcoming us here. Chief Williams, my deepest gratitude and yawagoa to you, our elders and the citizens of Rama for the next 3 days. And I understand we're going to possibly be witnessing a softball game tomorrow. So that's great. That brings back tonight, sorry. That brings back lots of memories for many of our communities that have had teams over the years in the healthy competition between our nations. And so we'll see what those two great communities have to bring tonight as far as entertainment for the rest of us. This community is a dynamic community that has a reputation of a community with visionary leaders. And I want to acknowledge all of the previous leadership that Chief Williams has talked about this morning too, and the contribution that they have made to building up this community. As many of you know, many leaders have come before us in the work that all of you do, the work that I do as the regional chief, and we acknowledge all of our former leaders and the work that they have done in bringing us to where we are today. So I'm honored as we come together for 3 days. The last year has been a very eventful year for all of us, for many of us, including us at the Chiefs of Ontario and the Regional Chiefs Office. We've worked together to achieve positive change through our Ontario Final Agreement, which is a great example of us working together. Leadership, community members, frontline workers, representative plaintiffs have built and realized what decades of work have come together for the Ontario Final Agreement. Our First Nation rights, major project regulations have been carrying our message that our responsibility, we've been carrying that message that our responsibility to our people and to our land must be respected. This past year, we've had to battle new challenges in our treaty rights and our inherent rights, our title and jurisdiction. This is the case this is the case of what is old, but sadly is new again. The Crown is trying to access our resources in our traditional territories, and by trying to do this and taking shortcuts. We have spent considerable amount of time fighting Bill 5 and Provincial Bill 5, C5, sorry, and now are both laws. The next chapter of this story is what we'll see will happen on the ground in our communities. On this, the federal Crown has made repeated promises, reiterating without qualifications, including in the King's speech that we heard last year, is a commitment to meet the legal standards of free, prior, informed consent. That's a big commitment coming from Canada that did not meet standards in the processes leading through to C5 itself. And so we've heard the government make commitments about free, prior, informed consent, but then we see the actions of Bill C5, very concerning. We will continue to insist that free, prior, informed consent and implementation of our constitutional and treaty rights is paramount. Another key development that we have seen over the last little while is the Prime Minister Carney's commitment last December to hold the First Nations First Ministers meeting. This is likely to occur sometime in 2026, and the National Chief and the Assembly of First Nations will share a bit more information with us about that tomorrow. This is a significant commitment and a challenging undertaking for the Crown and for us. We need to be prepared as a region. We must work together to come together on our focus. We have to have focused, concise messaging. From our region, we must have concrete political positions and actions at a multilateral table. And I've talked quite a bit about this in some of the assemblies that we've had that I've participated in the last little while. We need to think about what our messaging will be, and it has to be concise, because we're going to come together under the First Minister's meeting with other regions' competing priorities. And so later on today, we'll have a conversation this morning about those priority areas amongst ourselves. We're also going to have a conversation with the Assembly of First Nations around that. Another major project development is now that there's the new federal government has been in place with the majority government led by the Prime Minister, which has been moving very quickly and decisively. This is something we haven't seen before. We've seen a Liberal government before that takes its time, engages in process. This government, a Liberal government, operates differently. And I think we need to ensure that with these new players, it's a different political dynamic that exists in Ottawa. And we need to continue to adapt quickly to ensure that we're advancing our message, our inherent rights, but also taking advantage of those opportunities that come with that. Last month, this government announced an engagement process and formed with the intent to reform what looks like legislation that will significantly weaken environmental protections and the assessment regime. Extremely concerning. We've seen this before, folks. Canada is proposing to compress the federal major project decision-making into one-year timeframes, and to authorize early construction before impact assessments are done. Quite concerning, because many of you in this room, all of our leadership have been through assessment processes before. Some of them are frustrating at times, but others have significant impacts to our communities. And imagine 1 year. This is something we need to think about. What we need to do is our response needs to be clear, and we must be united on this. And that is, in whatever manner the Crown approaches environmental assessments on individual projects, it must continue to partner with First Nations. We're going to continue to push that message forward. It cannot sweep aside the Crown's constitutional, treaty, and international obligations to First Nations. We have seen backlash, though, on the government, and it has extended the consultation engagement on the recent announcement to July 22nd. So which means that there are opportunities to push back and to extend these timelines. Facing new challenges and old challenges through joint strategies and actions is where we're at. This is what we are here for. Over the next few days, we'll deliberate on our priorities for the next coming year. I look forward to those outcomes of our deliberations. Every aspect of work as leaders is focused on improving our well-being of our communities, strengthening our nations, and putting in place the tools we need to secure healthy, prosperous, and safe communities for all of our nations and people. We draw on our roots, our community, and our teachings of our nations to build collective strength so our children and the generations after them can thrive. Over the past year, we have demonstrated to each other how powerful our collective action can be. The May gathering that we had to launch the implementation of the Ontario Final Agreement on the Child Welfare Reform really stands out for me on that point. That event told me an important story about working together. First, the actual content of the OFA brings together some long-awaited actions to ensure our nations will have the resources along with the acknowledgement of our inherent jurisdiction. I've continuously reiterated that the Ontario Fine Agreement, yes, it is not perfect. Yes, there are some flaws, but there's some strong acknowledgements in there. Our territory, your territory, your jurisdiction, and the resources to support that. Each of you will be charged with having to adapt your communities to support that, to embrace that, and so that local decisions and control and decision-making is within community. Second, when the child welfare reform fell apart at the national level over 2 years ago, we worked hard and we came together. Our region said, look, we need to advance this work. We have a lot of framework already. And that's exactly what we did. Our teams got together and advanced the Ontario Fine Agreement. And to this day, at the national level, there is still no final agreement for national reform on a child welfare program. Each and every one of us in this room needs to be proud of the work that we've done as a region. And I continuously reiterated that regional approaches is something that we need to continue to advance in the many areas that impact our nations. Jordan's principle, the non-insured health benefits program, I know is impacting so many of our communities. We need a regional approach for that. The work that we have done on the OFA has shown Canada and the rest of Turtle Island that our region can do it. And there's other areas we're going to continue to work on together in that area. We've worked hard through these negotiations. We've got what our people needed and a plan and resources to support the diverse needs and situations of all of our communities across Ontario, and we can do that in other areas. Everyone has contributed to that success. We saw the opportunities and the challenge, and we kept going to achieve real achievements in which all of us should be proud of. Our strength is our unity, grounded in our values, our laws, responsibilities, and connection to one another. When we strive to understand the community, our people end up guiding the decision-making process for our leadership. This assembly provides an opportunity for you to share, strategize, and deliberate on areas where collective action can support your respective nations. It is for you, chiefs, and our delegates to determine that. Now I'll go over taking the time to be here and sharing your insight on these key priorities and strategies that we'll discuss over the next 3 days. Looking ahead, we have some important work to do. First, supporting and protecting First Nation rights and inherent jurisdiction over all of our resources is paramount and extremely important to me. Second, protecting the safety and security of our communities and our people. Third, building capacity, cooperative relationships internally and externally to further empower our nations through cooperation and partnership. I've continuously reiterated how important these 3 priority areas are to me. They're not specific projects, but they're ways of approach, and so that we can ensure that in our region, we're doing what we can to support one another. Over the past year, we fought difficult battles, like I mentioned, Bill C-5 and Bill 5. Ultimately, the federal government's provincial bills and the federal bill were passed over our objections without consultation, much less consent. The upheaval to Canada's economy and international economies are understandably a preoccupation of federal and provincial governments for the foreseeable. Federal and provincial governments are focused on resource extraction, and that means our territories are implicated in all of that as well. That said, that is not acceptable that the Crown is disregarding the rule of law when it comes to our rights, our treaties, in your community jurisdiction. C-5 and Bill 5 actually try to illegally reverse the procedural requirements under Section 35 case law and international law. Our legal rights require a consultation and consent, and that those standards be met before any Crown decision is made. There is no prior approval without consultation and consent. We're going to continue to push that message. As I mentioned, the federal government announced last month that it's working on a bill for the fall session of Parliament to bring major projects to change how major projects are done, especially around environmental protections. Federal discussion paper emphasizes compressing timelines to one project, one review approach, and a so-called pre-approval mechanism. As we saw in Ontario, the intent to create special economic zones where less rigor is required for those environmental protections. Once again, proposals to take shortcuts raise concerns about the Crown's capacity to fully and properly meet its consultation and consent obligations to your people, to our people. Our procedural and substantive legal rights and the Crown's legal obligations respecting consultation and consent must fully be met. And all governments, including ours, must take the action needed to address the human-induced climate crisis. As we know, the forest fires continue to be a problem for our region, many of our regions. They're getting more frequent and more intense. First Nations and all of Canada needs to properly balance our relationship with the earth and see how we can sustain ourselves. This is extremely important, and I know each and every one of you in this room continue to understand that, but it's in getting governments, partners to understand that and the work that we do. Everyone from here to Alberta, the BC, to the Arctic, to Quebec and the Maritimes must recognize that the best resources we have are our healthy lands, our healthy waters, in each other. This battle over how to regulate major project development will soon move to a new phase, one that will be fought at the nation level and community level as actual projects move through environmental and social impacts and social impact assessments and final decision-making. And so chiefs, delegates, we know that with Bill 5 C5 has now become law, we will now start to see individual projects that will have the direct implications not only on your treaty rights, your inherent jurisdiction, but on those lands in our communities. This battle will move to how to regulate major project development will soon move. So, like I said, we'll soon move to a new phase. Individual communities are going to face important decisions over the next couple of years. You must have opportunities to benefit from development that meets your nation's needs, your nation's values on environment, and the balance that is needed to achieve this with development. Those decisions belong to you, your community, and your nations. Respecting community lawmaking authority and meeting the Crown's obligation and consent obligations are key to prosperity for everyone. Resource development can be done with free, prior, informed consent. Environmental assessments and Section 35 consultations are carried out in a good way in accordance with your protocols and your laws. This is the message that I continue to bring to government, to industry, to partners, and all the speaking that I do. There is a pathway forward. It's for a community to decide, but it's ultimately up to you and your community. As regional chief, I'm committed to supporting you and building constructive relationships with federal, provincial governments, with private sector as needed. Where there are benefits from development decisions and decisions on development, the rights of First Nations must be front and center. I also want to mention the work that we have been doing with a number of our communities to drive change around our rights to cross the international border, the medicine line. There's still a lot of bureaucracy and political resistance from non-natives, but that has never deterred us. As a co-chair of the J Treaty Border Alliance, I continue to insist on the recognition and implementation of First Nation inherent and treaty-based rights to cross the Canada-United States international border. Over this coming year, we will need to push we will need to push forward to advance our vision for First Nation police legislation and advancing our clean drinking water. We will hear today that the federal government is tabling legislation, and we will talk about that legislation a little bit more in detail over the next couple of days. But the federal legislation on policing, the legislation on water, needs to meet the needs of your communities. Both of these legislative initiatives have been promised for far too long. Without action, it is truly, without action, we have seen from the government time and time again disappointment. Despite clear, unqualified affirmation of First Nations inherent jurisdiction by the Supreme Court of Canada in the reference case on the federal child welfare legislation, and despite regulatory commitments to the full implementation of the UNDRIP legislation, we still meet familiar barriers on inherent jurisdiction and free, prior, informed consent issues. In legislation that we still continue to see this happening. This is a good time, I think, to consider how we do parliamentary and legislative advocacy differently. Submitting briefings and appearing before committees are not enough, as several recent experiences around C9 and C5 shows. With our help, ministers must provide rights-based instructions to senior officials involved in legislative development. Instructions that are around co-developing with us. This is how First Nation leadership can collaborate with the resources we do have to launch sustained pressure on the key initiatives like S2, water, and First Nation policing. One thing that has become clear despite the passage of UNDRIP, the federal government has not reorientated its approach when it comes to co-development of legislation. And so we continue to remind the government, UNDRIP legislation is there. There's lots of commitments from the government, but the process of government, the machine of government has not changed. So the process of legislative co-development must be orientated in respecting our rights. The Crown's behavior in these processes must change. Senior officials must receive instructions from the minister responsible on how this legislative pathway and priorities will come out. And it must respect our constitutional treaty rights and international rights. Senior officials will be working with the minister's office to ensure senior officials receive that message. I think it's time to wrangle the federal ministers on instructions to the senior officials tasked with drafting legislation. In other areas too, we'll continue to press the Crown forward on efficient, fair, and speedier processes. And here's what I'm thinking around additions to reserve. Settlements are key to our economic development and should be considered high on Canada and Ontario's development priorities and as a key element of relationship building. I will continue my own relationship building with government, communities, and private sectors to help break down the barriers when you call on the Chiefs of Ontario and myself for assistance. And so I've talked lots and lots about additions to reserve. The government has done a policy redesign of the ATR process. They've been kicking this can for a number of years. And so part of the advocacy work that I've been doing around ATR is getting the government to get the right people to the table, getting the government to work with Ontario, getting the government to work with proponents, getting the government to work with Hydro. Because what happens is the work starts on ATR, one department works on it and kicks it to the next one without even talking to the last one or the next one coming up after that. Unacceptable. Yes, the policy is broken, but the practicalities around ATR is broken as well. There are relatively few First Nations without reserve land, and for those situations, the consequence is profound. These First Nations cannot build sustainable communities without housing and infrastructure. Canada has a clear domestic and international obligation to advance justice for these communities. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, Canada made a statutory commitment that invokes honor of the Crown to uphold minimum standards articulated in Articles 26, 27, and 28. These articles affirm the inherent rights of First Nations to their land, territory, and resources. And I know that last year we talked a lot about what we consider near bans and those communities working towards recognition. And we're going to continue to advance that work. We're going to continue to support all of our communities in this region. The battle to get the federal government out of the control of our legal identity continues. We have the right to determine, you have the right to determine who your citizens are, not the federal government. And we'll continue to push forward on this message. The safety of our communities, the safety of your people. There can be no greater priority for all of us in this room and for our leaders than protecting the safety of our people. This is a prerequisite for well-being and prosperity. It should be done in the following guiding principles. And so part of the work that we continue to do and some of the files around community safety is the Northern Highways. This is an initiative that the Chiefs of Ontario has been garnering support for with our partners, but also hearing from many of our nations around the impacts that highway safety has, more particularly around Highway 7, 11, and 17. And so we're going to continue to advocate the government to continue to find solutions, expand those highways, and create passing lanes so that we don't have more tragic incidences of our community members being killed. First Nation policing is also a priority in an area that we continue to work with the national office on. I've been advocating for new investments to support First Nation drug units. Effective actions to deter drug trafficking requires greater collaboration, intelligence sharing, and modern equipment for our police agencies. And so part of the messaging we've been pushing forward to the federal government is make new investments now into First Nation policing to help combat drug trafficking through every one of our communities. We also continue to push forward that legislation is needed to make policing an essential service. And we'll continue to push that forward, and that the inherent jurisdiction of your nations is a priority. We need to ensure that our people, especially our elders, our women, our LGBTQ plus citizens, feel safe and are safe in your communities. Our police forces need sustainable, predictable funding to do their jobs, and also need to be accountable to your communities. The opiate crisis continues. As I said, we need stronger partnerships with the federal and provincial governments, and to end the opiate crisis in our communities we need to end the opiate crisis in our communities. First Nation-led initiatives need to be paramount. We cannot allow the devastating health and social impacts of drug trafficking in each and every one of your communities to continue. And I know this continues to be a priority for many of our nations. Emergency management is another area in which where we're working with the province of Canada and Ontario. We need greater space, more resources, and greater control of our nations and decision-making around emergency management. Child well-being will continue to work at all levels to implement our Ontario final agreement. Infrastructure and housing, we need to continue to push forward to close the infrastructure gap. Building relationships and partnerships continues to be a priority and something that's near and dear to me. Success in all of these areas that I've mentioned depends on continuing building capacity and relationships. As we build constructive relationships, both internally and externally, with federal and provincial, with private and amongst ourselves, ramping up our exercise of our inherent jurisdiction on any matter that doesn't exclude working on relationship building. Cooperation and partnerships are important tools that we can further empower our nations. The upcoming First Ministers meeting, the meeting with the Prime Minister and the Premiers, is a rare opportunity. The First Nations FMM is important and unprecedented. We have an opportunity this week here at the Chiefs of Ontario to deliberate on the message. Over the coming weeks, I look forward to what's on the top of your mind, a review of our key messaging so that we can carry that out to the First Ministers meeting, and a commitment in action and what we expect to see from the federal and provincial governments. Whether it be an example of messaging around the distribution, around directly by distributing directions taken directly from the federal and provincial on major projects and those regulations and what that looks like and what implications that will have. The need for greater intergovernmental actions, inclusion of First Nations on the opioid crisis and drug trafficking. What role does the province and federal governments play? It's also a time to discuss a regular process between First Nations and the ministers, including a process to support the work led by you, our community leadership, and what happens in between the First Ministers meeting. We'll see the first one, but that can't be the last one, but what happens in between them. Extremely important, because as we know, many times we come together, talk about a lot of things, actions are committed, and we don't talk about it again until the next meeting. On the provincial separation movement, I wanted to mention that. We all feel great concern. And how can we prepare as a region to support other First Nations in Alberta? And what does our support look like if we're called upon? Because the separation of Canada will implicate all of us in so many ways. In closing, I just want to say Nyawagoa to all of you for the opportunity to continue to be your regional chief, and I greatly enjoy the work that I do, the work that we do at the Chiefs of Ontario. I'll be listening closely over the next few days. I want to thank all of our regional organizations for the invites to attend their assemblies as well. I've been listening, an opportunity to learn more and to understand the issues that impact your nations. We have an opportunity to continue to mobilize the diversity, insight, and depth of experience in this room, in our leadership is amazing, and we must continue to seize upon those opportunities. In closing, I welcome at any time your feedback, your insight, your questions to me, not only to me, but the work that we are doing in our regional office. I take my responsibilities seriously. I also welcome your feedback on my monthly reports. And those of you that may not know, I write those things every week, every month on my own, which I actually have been doing since I was a district chief in my community. And I will say that I never intended this for it to be the case. But June this year is 20 years since I've been in the political arena. It was 20 years ago I came. Thank you. I never intended to be a district chief for such a period of time, or the grand chief, and frankly, not the regional chief either. But as we enter these circles, there's so much energy and dynamic in this room, so much knowledge and strength, but there's a lot of work to do. I don't shy away from work. And I want to end with this. Don't forget this. Don't forget that we have the best region. We are the best region, not because you have the coolest regional chief, but because of each and every one of you in this room and the hard work that you do. Yes, there's many challenges in our communities. Yes, there's adversity. It's difficult. The work that each and every one of you do is challenging, but we have a great region, a lot of great things happening in this region. That's because of you. And I always remind every opportunity at the national level of how great things are in our region. Yes, we have challenge, but we have a lot of strength, and I hope that I've outlined a lot of that. So Yamagoa, Miigwech, and I look forward to the next 3 days with all of you in this room. All right, so now we're going to get down to business. Before we do that, though, I do want to invite one of our sponsors who's been very generous to the Chiefs of Ontario to say a few remarks. And so I'll ask Carla Neal on behalf of the Independent Electrical Systems Operator to come forward and bring some welcoming remarks before we go into the formalities part of our meeting. Carla?
Good morning, everyone. Ani Buju Sego. My name is Carla, and I have been listening to the regional chief's words intently. And there is only one thing that I would disagree with, and that is I do think we have the coolest regional chief here. So thank you for your very kind introduction. I'm really honored to be here today on behalf of the Independent Electricity System Operator, or the IESO as we're also known. For those of you who may be less familiar, the IESO is the agency working at the heart of Ontario's electricity system. And it's our job to connect homes and businesses and communities across the province to ensure that they are able to access the electricity grid and have a reliable, affordable, and clean supply of power. Now, we are often described as being a lot like air traffic controllers, but instead of landing planes, we direct the flow of electricity across a vast network of high voltage transmission lines, roughly 30,000 kilometers. And we're also the system planner. We're forecasting demand over the long term to guide smart investments and to ensure that energy infrastructure is in place to support both our current and our future needs at the lowest cost. And supporting economic growth was also very recently added to our mandate. And so that means that the IESO is tasked with ensuring that we have a modern electricity system. And we know that we must work with communities in order to understand your needs and your future growth plans. So events like this are an important one. They are an opportunity for us to come together, to learn from one another, and to also strengthen relationships. And at the IESO, we value the opportunity to support initiatives that celebrate First Nations culture, leadership, and collaboration. And we are very grateful to be part of this work and to be with you here today. And so for this reason, we are proud to support the annual Chiefs Assembly and the important work being done to advance opportunities for First Nations leadership in both the electricity and the broader energy sector. Now, I just want to set the table a little bit about some of the work that we're doing together. And I think it's fair to say that we are at a pivotal and highly promising moment for Ontario's energy sector. And it's one that is defined by opportunity, by transformation, and forward momentum. Growing demand for electricity, which is being driven by electrification of the economy and economic growth, is accelerating the need to build out Ontario's electricity grid at pace. And as we respond to these developments, we know that our relationships with First Nations matter more than ever. Strong, trust-based relationships grounded in respect and a true commitment to working together are essential for mutually beneficial partnerships that are key to unlocking and safeguarding future economic prosperity. All of us in this room understand the importance of shaping an integrated and a robust approach to energy infrastructure development, one that supports the long-term success of communities. And we recognize that resource and infrastructure development must involve the Chiefs of Ontario, its Leadership Council, and the 133 First Nations in Ontario to lead, to build, and to strengthen Ontario's energy sector. So I'm pleased that as a result of our work together, I continue to feel that there is a mutual desire and a great momentum for us to work together to build that grid in a respectful way, a way that advances reconciliation, honors First Nations treaty rights, and encourages and supports Indigenous economic participation and aspirations. And across the province, we're seeing what's possible when communities are supported to lead. Funding for community energy champions is helping First Nations build expertise in community. And that is supporting local leaders to plan, to implement, and deliver energy solutions that reflect their priorities. And we're seeing this leadership at scale through projects like the Wataynikaneyap transmission line, which is a truly historic First Nations-led partnership that has successfully connected many remote communities to clean, reliable power while creating long-term economic opportunity, infrastructure ownership, and the foundation for new housing and community growth. At the same time, the IESO's recent and ongoing procurements is opening new doors for energy projects in the province. And as we are securing new electricity supply through those efforts, we are seeing unprecedented First Nations participation and partnership contributing directly to Ontario's energy system expansion and to the benefit of communities. Complementing all of this is the Indigenous Energy Support Program, which plays a foundational and now expanded role investing in community capacity, which we know is a priority for Chiefs of Ontario, skills development, energy planning infrastructure, and the transition away from diesel reliance so that First Nations can fully participate and benefit from economic opportunities. Together, these initiatives are not only advancing energy sovereignty and resilience, they are creating meaningful opportunities for First Nations businesses through procurement, partnerships, and long-term revenue streams, and for First Nations youth through training, skills development, and pathways into careers in the growing clean energy sector. On behalf of the IESO, I want to acknowledge and thank the Chiefs of Ontario, the organizers, elders, youth advisory councils, knowledge keepers, and all who have contributed to this important work. And we will continue to encourage and engage in meaningful conversations about how First Nations can participate in our sector and how we can all prosper. On behalf of the IESO, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to support and to be part of this journey. We wish you a very meaningful and fruitful event. Miigwech.
Great, yeah, we'll go, Carla, for that on behalf of the IESO. And so now at this time, we're going to move to call for a motion to formally adopt the rules of procedure and of code of conduct. And so I do want to highlight that there have been some changes in the rules of procedure related to the in-camera portion. And so once a motion is called and passed to go in camera, all media who have the yellow lanyards, government who have the pink, and observers blue will be asked to leave the room. This means that all other colors aside from pink, yellow, blue will be able to remain. Chiefs must notify the registration desk in person or by email at meetingsupport@coup.org or for folks attending online of all observers who wish to remain in the assembly room for the in-camera session. So those exclusions, and then we'll need to know who is going to stay. A list will be compiled by the registration team that identifies all noted observers who are allowed to remain in the in-camera. All observers who are included on the registration team's list will be required to re-register at the registration desk and will be given a white lanyard. All virtual observers allowed to remain will be noted separately by the registration team. All observers with a white lanyard will then be allowed to remain in the in-camera session. Please note that we do not have an in-camera session scheduled until day 2 in the morning. Chiefs will have all day to register observers they wish to remain in camera session at the registration desk. Please ensure that this is done ahead of the time to streamline the process and to keep things moving when we go in camera. And so that is the change on the in-camera portion. And so we've continuously revised the in-camera part to ensure we're meeting your needs, but also ensuring that we're keeping these confidential in-camera discussions to the folks that need to be in the room only. And so that's the change in the rules of procedure. The code of conduct continues to remain the same. And so I do need a motion to formally adopt the rules of procedure. Oh, yes, Chief, we have 1, 2. Come to the mic, that would be great. Good morning to Chief Paywis, by the way.
Good morning, Chief. Morning, Chiefs. Yeah, I'll make that motion. Chief Adelaide was with Shawannago First Nation, and let's get the show on the road.
All right.
Good morning, Chiefs. I'll second that there. Chief Todd Cares United Nation.
All right. Thank you, Chiefs, for the motion to formally adopt the rules of procedure and code of conduct. Is there any discussion on this motion? If none, I'll move to a vote on it. Any abstentions? Any against the motion to adopt the rules of procedure and the code of conduct? If none, I declare the motion carried. Thank you. All right, so I do now need a motion to formally adopt the speaker. At this time, I call for a mover and a seconder to formally adopt the speakers for the Chiefs Ontario 2026 Fall Chiefs Assembly Resolution. Joining us today is our lead speaker, Adam Fiddler, along with Vera Pavis Tabongadong and Shane Martinez. Is that right? Close enough? Close. You correct me after. So I need a motion to accept the 3 speakers in which I have outlined. Chief Williams, second.
I'll make that motion, Chief Williams, to both around.
Thank you. Chief LaRocca, you'll second. All right, she's nodding, yes. Okay, we have a mover and seconder on the motion to adopt the 3 speakers for the next 3 days. Is there any discussion on that motion? Any abstentions on the motion? Any against? Okay, I declare the motion carried to formally adopt the speakers for the next 3 days. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Adam Fiddler to start us off. Okay. Here.
Menakishep Kenawaya, Miigwech for the confidence to be able to act as the co-speaker for the Ontario Regional Chief and the Chiefs in Assembly. Adam's going to be the lead, so he's going to be doing all the dancing during the assembly because he knows how to do that. And I'll watch to make sure he has all the right steps. And we'd like to welcome our youth co-chair, Shem, that I will share all of my skills that I've picked up from all of you in being a good-looking co-chair for a number of years and have worked very diligently to ensure that we put love into our assembly. So I was thinking about what I would say in the introduction besides my name is Vera Pewis Tababadang, Nishnawbe Kwe from Wasauksing, and I say miigwech to my family who hopefully could be watching, because I have to remember that this is the biggest prompter I've seen in a while. So, and it's really good because I didn't have to bring my glasses up here so far to be able to read things. But anything we say miigwech to all of the people that have coordinated us and brought me from point A to point B. And I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing the love in the assembly. Miigwech.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Shem Matanaz. I am 18 years old, and I come from Moose Cree First Nation and Attawapiskat First Nation. I am very thankful to be here today. This is not my first time being a youth co-chair. This is my second time. I would like to acknowledge my leadership first. Chief Peter Wesley of Moose Cree First Nation, Chief Michael Jolly of Mokribek Youth Council, and Chief Sylvia Kustajan Matadawabin, who will be here later today, of Attawapiskat First Nation. I sit on multiple different youth councils. I'm very engaged in my community, and I'm very thankful to be here, and I look forward to the opportunity to learn from Adam and Vera. Miigwech.
Miigwech, ganin nada juga bonsin kas mega gizin kansit gimes na me ben do dem mega nego zagening donji dan shiniu. Kenins miigwech skid na nachum miigwech kagi pachanamad nogum kchihag ego min gagi madegewat ego we kag pachan gadek mi genin baksenemon dan damo amando chui mun segwe doesn't go nam when nogum kagi jak. So miigwech, thank you everybody. It's great to be here again, working with Vera and Shem. I was saying I was raised in part by my grandmother, and I have full respect for Vera. Reminds she keeps me in line. Will crack the whip if I go off track, and I'll always let Vera go first. So miigwech for that. So we'll get right into business. First order of business is call to order. So what time is it now? 9:35. Session is called to order. The reason that is important is in the rules of procedure. Just a reminder, when we call to order every morning, 15 minutes later, we do a count of who's in the room here physically, but also online. And that determines the quorum for making decisions that day. So in 15 minutes, we'll get the number, and the quorum for making decisions today will be 50% plus one of that number. So that'll be coming to us in about 15 minutes. So we need to go through some announcements as we get started. First of all, we understand that we know that many of you have undertaken your own ways to open today and this session in a good way. And we also have asked the elders, the knowledge keepers, to keep our meeting in their thoughts, prayers, while they made their offerings this morning. So I'd like to acknowledge and welcome the knowledge keepers. Over to my left, the first row of tables here, we have Barney Batiste. I think I saw Barney walking in. We have Dave Root, Don Jones, Donna DeBasige, Harvey Bell, Mike Mitchell, Norma General Liquors, Olive Elm, Pam Big George. On our list, I'm not sure if she's here. Pat Oakes is here. Terry Fiddler. And of course, Vera Pewis de Babendang, who is sitting with us. I apologize if I missed any of the Knowledge Keepers Council. We'd also like to take some time to acknowledge our sponsors. Of course, one of our primary sponsors spoke earlier this morning, but we'd also like to acknowledge Makwa 7, Alto Rail, Hydro One, First Nations Financial Management Board, IESO, Independent Electricity System Operators, Elections Ontario, OKT Law, and the Ontario Energy Board. So, Xchimigwech for your support in putting together this great assembly over the next 3 days. Also, just a reminder, leadership, you should have received an email with all of the meeting materials, all of the on-time resolutions, all of the relevant information for this session. If you don't have the email, there's a couple of things you can do. On your lanyard, on the back, there is a QR code. So just take your device, scan that code. That should take you to a page with all of the information. It's also available online, and you can share this with your folks back home. www.chiefsmeeting.com. Chiefsmeeting.com, and that'll take you to all the meeting information. I'd like to also introduce you to the Resolutions Committee. The Resolutions Committee is supporting us here today to review the resolutions for the meeting. Of course, all of the decisions that you will be making. I'd like to acknowledge Carmen Jones, Zachary Smith, Alice Longboat, Angel Miracle, Zachary Smith, Jay Pakirathan from Chiefs of Ontario. We also have Krista Yao, Legal Support from Najuan Law. From the Independent First Nations, we have Diane Miracle, so Miigwech. From the Anishinaabe Nation, we have Lorianne Whitaker. From AI, we have Sarah Montour. And from Anishinaabe Nation, we have Luke Hunter. Just a reminder, Chiefs, that the Resolutions Committee, they're not responsible for drafting any of the resolutions. Their job is to review the resolutions that have already been drafted. You submit them ahead of time. There is a deadline, I believe it's 14 days before day one, and they review the resolutions just to make sure that they're all compliant with the resolutions policy. There is a resolution deadline and for late resolutions. And of course, there's a separate process for late resolutions. I'm starting to stutter here. The deadline for late resolutions is Wednesday, 12 o'clock. For voting on resolutions, if we do require votes, we have staff directors from Chiefs of Ontario. We have Chris Hoyos, who's Director of Policy and Communications. We also have help from Samantha Restool and Michael Mommerstieg. They will be our counters. So once we do have votes, we'll go through a process raising your lanyard. Sometimes it takes a while to make sure that we've got everybody. But what we'll also be doing is, so we've got this prompter here, screen up in front of us. We also have Chiefs logged in. It is a virtual session, so we do have some Chiefs, and we'll make sure that they're accounted for as well. Also, just wanted to acknowledge all of the hard work from the staff of Chiefs of Ontario, of course, through the guidance of the Leadership Council. They've worked really hard to bring us together in a good way. A lot of work has gone into preparing for the next 3 days. And I just want to encourage everyone to please give them respect and patience in over the next 3 days. A lot of work that has to happen. And let's all be respectful. There is a code of conduct that Ontario Regional Chief spoke about, and let's treat each other in a respectful way. A couple of other things. This is a requirement in the rules of procedure to remind you that we are being broadcast live through the Chiefs of Ontario YouTube stream. So this is a public forum. Anybody and everyone can watch. I'm starting to stutter again. What's going on here? I need another cup of coffee. Anybody can watch online, including your citizens from back home, which is a good thing, including the general public, including the media, including the government. So everyone is watching our deliberations. Having said that, there are times where we may have to go in camera. I always say government doesn't invite us into their strategic sessions, their strategy sessions internally, and we don't invite them either. So there are times where we would have to go in camera. That's one of the changes that ORC talked about in the rules of procedure when we go in camera. Now, we've gone through a couple of different processes for in camera, and it's gotten really lengthy, so I'm really glad that the staff at Chiefs of Ontario have come up with a process. I'm really confused with the lanyard coloring system as well. I've got a chart here, but I'm even more confused. But basically, the way the in-camera works is if a chief and a second chief, if you move to go in camera, basically we ask media, government, industry representatives, and others to leave the room. If you want, let's say, for example, technical staff or council members or legal counsel or anybody else to stay in the room, chiefs, we're asking you, please register them at the registration table outside ahead of time. So do that today. If you have individuals that you know you want in the in-camera session, put them on the list. Once they're on the list, they'll get a white lanyard. So if you are an observer right now and you have a blue lanyard, you will be asked to leave the room. But once you get a white lanyard, you can stay in the room for in-camera. So again, chiefs, if you have technicians or others that you want to stay in the room in camera, register them ahead of time and they will be allowed to stay in the room. Once it won't be until tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have in-camera sessions. Once we go in camera, you still have that opportunity, but it just slows the process and we want to get it all done up front. So I think that's fairly clear. So Miwe, I think that's it for some of the housekeeping announcements. Oh, another thing, there's a survey. There's always a survey, how things went. We're always looking for feedback. We're looking for feedback, what we can do better. So there is a survey, chiefs, that you can fill in. I think you can go to that QR code on the back of your lanyard. There is a survey. I believe this year we've got some prizes. And what else was I going to say about, I don't know what the prizes are. Okay. Okay. So you did get the QR code when you registered. So a couple of announcements. And then I'm going to get into the agenda. I see Chief King up. You're going to speak to the agenda, I'm assuming. At that point, I will open up the floor. So that's it for some of the housekeeping announcements. We'll get right into it. We're a little bit behind already. So we'd like to go through the agenda. So there is a draft agenda. We'll have it put up on the screen. Of course, we go through a process. There are changes that are made. This is the latest draft, and you did receive a copy. So it's up on the screen. This is, of course, the Annual Chiefs Assembly Day 1, Tuesday, June 16th, 6 a.m. We had the sunrise ceremony. Again, acknowledgements for that, miigwech. 7 a.m. the registration opens, trade show opens, hot breakfast, and the room is opened. We started with the opening protocols, the words before all else, with Knowledge Keepers Olive Elm and Mike Mitchell. Miigwech, acknowledgement again for that. We had the grand entry, the territorial and Knowledge Keepers remarks, the welcome from Chief Ted Williams and his special guest, Miigwech. the welcome remarks from the Ontario Regional Chief Abram Benedict, the sponsor remarks from the Independent Electricity System Operator, the adoption of the rules of procedure and the code of conduct, speakers, and the agenda. At 9 a.m. on the agenda, but we're a little bit behind, we have a general discussion. Ontario Regional Chief will be leading that, opening the floor, talking about the First Minister's meeting that is being proposed, and then the federal major projects legislation. 11:30, we'll have a presentation regarding the Major Projects Office. It's an update and a Q&A, an opportunity to ask questions. We'll have Rob Van Wallingham, the Vice President, and Candace Anderson, the Senior Director. We'll break for lunch. Food is going to be out in the hall again, and you can take it. There is a room, the Cedar Room, that's available to have your meal. 1 o'clock, the Chiefs of Ontario audit. There is a resolution as part of that. Resolution accountability, review and discussion at 1:45. 2:30, on-time resolutions. Then we'll have the council updates at 4 o'clock with the Ontario First Nation Young People's Council starting, and then the Knowledge Keepers Council. Of course, tonight, a number of meetings happening. Breakout rooms, research and data management sector will be meeting, social services sector, and the Ontario First Nations Young People's Council. And as mentioned, we have the ball game tonight, Rama versus Curve Lake. Sounds like there should be some really good competition. So that is happening tonight, 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, day 2, 6 a.m., sunrise ceremony. Registration opens again at 7 a.m. 8:45, we'll have the opening remarks with the 2 SLGBTQIAPD Plus Council. At 9 o'clock, the enforcement of First Nations laws update. Again, these sessions will be in camera. There is a resolution as part of that. I will have Jackie Lombardi, Director of Justice. 9:30, policing class action update, also in camera, I'm told. Chief Wilfred King, Yashkazaging and Schnabik. 9:45, the Métis Rights Assertion update, which is also in camera with Jackie Lombardi. 10 a.m., still in camera, the head lease on First Nation territory issue. We'll have Chief Sherry Lynn Hill and Chief Ardon Miracle. 11:30, human trafficking prevention and victim support. We will be coming out of in camera for that. We'll have a resolution that'll be led by Sarah Whalen, the Acting Director of Women's Initiatives. 11 a.m., the Ontario Housing and Infrastructure Needs Assessment, along with a resolution. We'll have Sam Abtai, Director of Housing and Infrastructure. We'll break at 12 o'clock for lunch. Come back at 1 o'clock. Again, it's up on the screen. 1 p.m., the Canada Water Modernization and ISK Water Wastewater Framework with Kathleen Padulo, Director of Environment. 1:30, the Mine Development Mapping Wasegiwet Platform. Dr. Stefan McLaughlin from the University of Manitoba. 2 p.m., we'll have an update on the Ontario Final Agreement with Finn Simard. 2:30, the Regional Information Governance Center Project Update with Carmen Jones. 3 o'clock, First Nation First Ministers Meeting Planning Update with AFN National Chief's Office and the AFN Secretariat. 4 o'clock, the First Nations Women's Council and the 2 SLGBTQIAPD Plus Council updates. And then at 6 o'clock, this is the dinner meeting happening with the Women and Two-Spirit Chiefs Network at the Rama Community Center. Of course, that'll be outside of the assembly. Day 3, again, sunrise ceremony starting at 6 a.m. 7 a.m. we'll have registration. 9 a.m. We'll start off with Moccasin Identifier, Chief Margaret Salt. 9:30, the Sichuan update with Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler. And at 10:15, we'll start on the emergency or urgent resolutions and the late resolutions. We'll have lunch. It'll be a working lunch. Food will be brought in. We'll just keep going with the agenda. And at 1 o'clock, we'll continue with the emergency, urgent resolutions and the late resolutions. 2:45, the Knowledge Keeper reflections, and then the closing prayer. So that's the agenda as proposed. I see, first of all, I need a mover and a seconder, and then I'll open it up. So I see Chief King. Yeah.
Chief Wilfred King, Kiaslagi and Schnebek. I'll move to accept the agenda,
Miigwech.
but I have a comment afterwards.
Okay,
Miigwech.
so I'll come back to you. I need a seconder. I see at microphone, are you going to second or is it a comment?
Chief Kazis from the Nishnawbe First Nation. I just want to make a comment here.
Chief Kazis, so I need a seconder first and then we'll open it.
I'll be the seconder.
Okay, very good. So we have the mover and seconder. Miigwech. Chief Kazis will second. So I'll come back to you. Okay, Miigwech. Chief King.
Good morning. I just have an observation, Mr. Chair. I know that our meetings are open to the general public, and I asked that question why. And I don't have a problem with, chiefs, counselors, members of the community attending these sessions and perhaps technicians and so forth. But, if you're looking at other organizations, I'm not sure if they're open to the general public. I don't think I can go to any meeting of an organization and say, I want to come in and observe. I think there's certain things that we have on our agenda. First two items on the agenda, I'm not going to call for an in-camera session on them, but if you look at the First Minister's meeting and also the federal major projects legislation, like those are really, really important topics. And perhaps some of the issues that may arise out of those discussions may deem to be confidential and perhaps sensitive. So I just raise that as an observation. Miigwech.
Miigwech, thank you. So I was going to repeat that, but I think you've already stated that very clearly. This is an open session. The first order of business, we'll be talking about the First Minister's meeting and planning and preparing and strategizing. And we don't sit in their strategy sessions, yet they're open to join us online. Miigwech for that. Microphone 4.
Okay, bonjour, Menogijeba, Nishkandagandoji. So I'm Chief of Nishnawbe First Nation. I just want to add non-insured benefits on the agenda. If there's time, we could discuss. It's a huge issue within NHIB in our area. There's missing appointments and missing travels for specialists. So that's what I want to add. If we could add it on our agenda, yeah, miigwech.
Miigwech, Chief Kazis. I'm just trying to go through the agenda to see if there's anything health related that we can attach that to. There's also a resolution update on previous resolutions where NIHB was referred to. So I'm just trying to find a good time. Just give me 1 second. Miigwech. Yeah, there will be a very quick update once we deal with resolutions, but I think you're actually asking for some specific time. So all of the day 2 items have resolutions, so we'd like to leave those there. So what we'll do is right before we go to, actually right after the Kashechuan update, 9:30, day 3, so 10:15 in the morning. NIHB, the Maznegad. And you'll be making a presentation, correct? Oh, comments? Okay. How much time gave you, Bigadik? 15 minutes? Okay, so we'll put it at 10:15 NIHB. Miigwech. Any more comments, discussion on the agenda as amended? Online? Okay, thank you. Online, Chief Wabas. Go ahead, Chief Abbas. Kung ba magugamit na yung buntikitain? Sagot. There you go.
No, there's.
Ganun dago.
Okay, Migat, Chairman, Adam. Kung gisa sinimat kipisan, magas mo chit na yak, masingay ko na nagaston inumata sika. I mean, binamagay kitan here. I wasn't able to make it to attend Chiefs of Ontario meeting. I had so many things that I need to work on regarding my community. Maybe from time to time I'm going to be on while I address some of the things here. The first thing I wanted to say about the open forum is that I relay and understand Chief King's what he's raising, and I think when we talk about the government, issues and things like that, I think it would be better to just be on in camera session because they're going to hear what we're thinking, and they're going to know what we're planning. You know, from time to time, we don't do in camera sessions. We just keep everything open. It's very important that I would like to hear other chiefs and proxies that are there on their thoughts on certain issues, certain matters, so we can move forward on that topic, on that agenda, on that item. This is what we're going to do, and this is the plan, and this is the resolution. Like what he said, like other organizations, they don't live stream when they're talking about certain things in their organizations. Even the governments, maybe from time to time they do that, but when they're in the strategy sessions, no, it's not open. So I just wanted to raise that concern. All right, thank you.
Good, Chief Abbas. Two things. Number one, we're going to remind chiefs that are joining us online, if you can turn on your camera when you're speaking, it's good to see you. You're just as handsome as the Ontario Regional Chief, so no problem seeing your face. There he is, Chief Abbas. Just a reminder generally for chiefs when you do speak online. Second matter is regarding in camera. So chiefs, you can call at any point. You can move to go in camera. So that is available to you once we start that session. So miigwech. Any more comments? Second call, any more comments? Third call, any more discussion, comments on the agenda as amended? If not, I'm going to call for question. And I'm looking at the chief for set question. You got to do it a little bit louder. We're thinking of the late former Chief Tom Brissett, who would boom in his big, deep voice, calling for question. So resolutions before you. Any opposition? Any opposition? Opposition? None? Abstentions? Abstentions? Abstentions. 3 calls, none. And I'm looking online, nothing online. So with that, resolution is carried to, it's a motion to adopt the agenda. So with that, miigwech. Thank you very much. We'll follow that. We're a little bit behind, so we'll get right into it. Miigwech for Neej Adam, Chief Pewis Tababandang. Chief Pewis, where is he? for sharing as makadewabo. I'll turn it over to Vera.
So we'd like to turn to that agenda item, First Minister's meeting and federal major projects legislation. I'd like to invite Ontario Regional Chief to bring his attention to these and sharing his information for these agenda items. Ontario Regional Chief Benedict.
Yeah, we'll go Vera for that. So a couple of things. We wanted to have an open discussion around a few things. One was the First Minister's meeting, in which I talked about in my remarks. Chris Hoy, who's our Director of Policy and Communications, is going to help me a bit with that. The other one was the major projects legislation that's coming forward. And I acknowledge the the concerns about the openness of this session. Obviously, it's a bit of a delicate balance in that stuff. We want our citizens to understand as well what our leadership is doing, or our other chiefs who may not be registered but are listening in. But at the same time, we run the risk of government. And so just a couple things on that. I don't particularly think that our discussion is super confidential around this particular item, the First Minister's meeting, because in actuality, what we want is the premiers to come to the table, more particularly, I suppose, Ontario's premier, I wouldn't say our premier, to come to the table and understand what our ask is and what our takeaways will be and what the next process will be in relation to that. And so just a bit of background on the First Minister's meeting. As you know, the Prime Minister, Carney, committed in December that there would be a First Minister's meeting with First Nations in the next little while. And so the AFN has been working to move that forward. And so they'll talk a little bit more about the logistics around that and later tomorrow when they have time on the agenda. Couple things. I know that there's a few resolutions in the packages that are being considered around the First Minister's meeting, which will establish, if passed by you, will establish a couple priority areas. But really what we're hoping to achieve in this discussion or following this discussion, we have time. The timeline hasn't been set yet. It's targeting the end of September, beginning of October. We don't know what the composition will look like. And I've said in a number of forums, including at our PTO organizations and some of the virtual sessions that we just had around other areas, we're going to need to ensure that, one, my priority is that we're adequately represented at the First Minister's meeting. Largest population across Turtle Island. Is it fair to have 5 seats in a region that has, 1/3 of what we have, or even 1/4 of what we have the same representation? And so we're going to have some political discipline around this going forward, what our representation will look like. We'll push for the maximum, but also we can't have an expectation that going into the First Minister's meeting, we're going to bring 133 chiefs into that forum. We've seen last year in July when the premier, the Prime Minister had a session with our leadership that everybody came together, had talked about a number of things, received presentations, photos were taken, and for all intents and purposes, there hasn't been a whole lot from that point, and so we don't want to have that again. The other thing is that our message, in which Chris Hoyos is going to walk through a bit of some of the priority areas, we need to be clear and concise on what our regional message is. And so the reality is that, the national office is kind of leading this. We have some collective control over where that goes. We'll go into our discussion with them at the national level in July in Ottawa at the AFN's assembly. But my desire is that we come up with a strategy, an approach, a message that's clear and concise with actionable deliverable from the First Minister's meeting and going forward from there, regardless of what the national office does. And so the premiers, the Prime Minister will come together with all the First Nation, well, not all, but the First Nation leadership in this forum. I do not want the AFN to lead the next steps. Now, if the next steps complement the work that we want to do in this region, great. If the next steps are no next steps from the national office, we still need to have next steps in our room, in our office, in our region. And so that really is something we need to think about. And so Chris is going to walk us through this presentation to help pare down our message. I know the priority areas are great. I know there is a push for constitutional conversations between the rights holders and the government or the crown. I know that, and that is something that I think that we need to seriously consider, but it's also in our messaging. There is a great concern that if we go to the first minister's meeting with all the premiers, the prime minister, and say, we want to talk about constitution, we want to talk about the constitution, our role in the constitution and that relationship with ourselves, we will probably get half of those premiers just neutralized, not listening. Think about the Alberta premier wanting to be in a room and talk about the treaty relationship and the constitutional relationship our people have with them. You're not going to listen, right? And so that just likelihood of next steps out of that meeting is diminished, right? But doesn't mean that conversation is not important. And one of the things that I have been talking about around this is there is a lot of uncertainty around land ownership, land back. We have some court decisions on the East Coast and the West Coast. The ones particularly in the West says the free simple title continues to exist. For people that don't understand the relationship between between the treaty relationship, the fiduciary responsibility with the Crown, the history, that decision in British Columbia is scary. It means that if they want to make investments into infrastructure there, real estate, large capacity or large infrastructure projects, how do they not know that the First Nations won't come over, slap a land claim on there, take it to court and win? And so it's created uncertainty. And I think that that is to our advantage. The reason why we need the federal government to talk about their treaty relationship, their constitutional relationship with us, is so that there's certainty, not just for them, but for us as well. And so we need to frame that message around the constitutional treaty, fiduciary responsibility in a message of certainty around land. Because if we go in there saying we want to amend the Constitution, we want to talk about our relationship there, I'm not sure we're going to get the results that we want. Doesn't mean it's impossible. It's around strategy. And that's some of the things I want to hear from you today to help guide the work that we need to do in our region to ensure when that date is set, we go there, we deliver a clear, concise message with deliverables that will benefit our region, regardless of what the national office does. And so now I'm going to ask Chris to walk us through a presentation. This is designed to be an open forum. Maybe if we're way off, tell us. If you think we're out of base, tell us. If you think there's another way we should approach it, let us know. This really is that opportunity to talk about that. So Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Regional Chief. So you actually hit on quite a few of the items on the presentation. The first is that we actually don't know when this meeting is going to be and who is actually going to be invited. So that's something that we still need to figure out. So AFN is going to be here tomorrow. Is it the National Chief? So National Chief is going to be coming. I believe Andrew Bisson, the CEO, is also going to be there. So as the Regional Chief mentioned, we do need to have clear and concise asks for the various priorities that we put forward. Priorities issues should have a clear and direct ask. And so we're looking at things like securing funding, setting up a dedicated political table, policy, regulatory, and legislative change. Those are all the kinds of things that, we can put on the table and ask for, a direct response from government, ask commitments from government. Another point that needs to be made is these meetings are going to go by really, really quickly. It's unlikely that we can have more than 4 or 5 different priority items, up there. The Prime Minister is probably going to not stay there for more than 30 minutes to an hour. That's generally how these things go. He'll leave his staff to kind of, interact with the people that are there, but he's going to probably be in and out. So really, it's narrowing down like the asks and the priorities to a few concise items. I know it's difficult. There are dozens and dozens of priorities. Working at the Secretariat, we've got about 90 or so active resolutions that we work on, very hard. So getting that down to 4 or 5 is near impossible. but it's just something that we're going to have to deal with if we want to have some good outcomes at this meeting. So today's presentation is going to go over 4 or 5 items that, you know, the Secretariat, Political Office, PTOs have all kind of worked on a little bit. There's also 2 resolutions in our resolutions package that speak to this, the First Minister's meeting, and that request those 2 items to be added to the list of priorities that Ontario puts forward. So I'm going to start with those. I'm going to give you a bit of a rundown on those 2 resolutions, what exactly those resolutions are asking for. I believe the chiefs are in the room, the ones that put those resolutions forward. So chiefs, if I'm mischaracterizing your resolution, please come to the mic and let us know. I'm happy to hear your perspective on those resolutions as well. But just to say that there are 2 resolutions that will be on the floor this afternoon that speak directly to this. Okay, so the first resolution is around FPIC and UNDRIP implementation. This is a resolution moved by Ogama Kwe, Veronica Smith, Chippewas of Nawash, and Ogama Conrad Ritchie, Chippewas of Saugeen. So within that resolution, it's, you know, it's more sophisticated, it's more complex than what I'm going to explain here, but just as a general overview, what they're asking for in that resolution is formal recognition and full implementation by the Government of Canada of free, prior, and informed consent in all federal decision-making that affects First Nations rights and interest. For the Government of Canada to ensure that legislative, regulatory, and policy reform intended to accelerate major projects do not diminish, constrain, or override the ability for First Nations to exercise FPIC. And for the Government of Canada to support First Nations in developing mechanisms to operationalize FPIC and to provide adequate funding to do so. So this is, you know, a very rights-based ask, looking at free, prior, and informed consent, making sure there's some kind of legislative review to ensure that FPIC is included in legislation that affects First Nations. And so that is a resolution that'll be coming to the floor today to have this added to the First Minister's meeting agenda. Priority number 2 is the implementation of land-based agreements. This is a resolution moved by Chief Joe Muskokaman, Chippewas of the Thames, and Chief Laurie Carr, Hiawatha First Nation. And just some background on this, existing government legislation, policy, and land use planning regimes impact the implementation of land-based agreements and the realization of Section 35 rights. This is particularly the case when planning and development on lands without meaningful application of free, prior, and informed consent. And current and proposed legislative frameworks affecting land use, development, and environmental assessment and resource planning often inadequately recognize Section 35(3). So again, you know, a rights jurisdiction land-based request. The recommended asks here are for Government of Canada to support First Nations in developing mechanisms to fully recognize First Nation jurisdiction as it relates to Section 35, and for the Government of Canada to align existing and future legislation with Section 35 constitutional rights. So again, another legislative review, a request for another legislative review to ensure that First Nations rights are being incorporated. So those are the 2 resolutions put forward by chiefs to have their priorities added to the First Minister's meeting. Do the chiefs that are moving and seconding these, do you want to make any comments now, or are we okay to move on?
Ani Bojo, Chief Veronica Smith from Chippewas and Nawash. I have no comments right now.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, so the remaining 3 topics are ideas put forward by the Secretariat, by PTOs, by the Political Office. We've all kind of sort of collaborated on these. But again, these are all just recommendations, right? If the chiefs want things that are completely different put forward, please let us know. Of course, we're happy to make that switch. There was a long list of items that were considered, including water legislation, for instance. But we figure the water legislation issue will probably be resolved by the time the First Minister's meeting happens. Legislation is being tabled already, so it might be a moot point by the time we get there. The first item that we wanted to bring forward is economic reconciliation. Really, the idea here is that this is probably a really strong opportunity to ask the Prime Minister and the premiers for a transformative change to economic reconciliation. So thinking big, what are some, major changes that can get made or legislation implemented or agencies created, what have you, to actually impact First Nations economic prosperity. Chief Merkel, go ahead.
Right now, with the implementation of free, prior, and informed consent is really a policy decision of the federal government, but I think it should be entrenched in legislation so that governments are required to do this as a matter of law. So I think you should ask for legislation, and that way all government departments and all parties know that they have to do this.
Yes, thank you, Chief. The way I guess the UNDRIP legislation is worded, as you said, it doesn't make FPIC, enforceable. It's really only used as a tool to support, any claims. So it's not fully entrenched. So what you're asking is for specific legislation related to FPIC.
That's correct.
Okay.
Is there room?
Mike one.
Chief Shillingmore Frappier, Tamiaga Anishinaabe. I would argue that we need to talk about constitutional change, not just legislation. These are things that these are constitutional talks. They're not legislative talks. So I think that it should be constitutional. And I think that is the purpose of this meeting is focusing on the Constitution and how we are going to have our rights respected, really, because that's what we're really talking about.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead, Chief King.
Chief King Kiasagi Snebek, First Nation. I concur with my fellow chief because she's a lot bigger than me. She's my. I just want to, kind of address what I first addressed earlier. When we're talking about this First Minister's meeting, my understanding that it's program driven rather than re-examining the Constitution. And again, are we missing an opportunity here by not looking at amendments to the Constitution that would enshrine UNDRIP under Section 35? Again, I don't want to get too much into this discussion because I think we're giving away our strategy here. And that's why I asked that if we're going to be discussing the First Minister's meeting, I think there's some really confidential discussions that we need to have amongst ourselves here, because I think if they know our strategy, we already missed that opportunity to address these in camera. So I have some issues I want to raise about our own structures in terms of how do we get there, but I don't feel comfortable having an open discussion on this because some important points were already raised, and I thought those should have been confidential. So I really don't see this as an open process. I see this as more of a strategy session, knowing that if this meeting takes place in September or early October, we're only 2 months away. So I don't think we're going to have that emergency strategy session before we go into that assembly. Miigwech.
Thanks, Chief King, for that. Was something more?
So I'm going to move that we go into camera.
Okay. Just a couple things on that, and then I'll turn it over to Adam to walk us through that process. It's unclear at this point if it is a program or if it is constitutional, right? And I think that is the discussion we need to have and what our position is on that. Again, though, to my point earlier, if we're wholly going to be constitutional, but all other regions are program and national office at program, what do we do, right? I mean, we want to enter into this with some outcomes that are come from it, right? And so I think that it will be a balance between that. I know that speaking with the folks at the national office, they are hearing more about the constitutional conversation that needs to happen. The other thing is that what I would expect is that the national office would lay the framework with the premiers in collaboration with the regional chiefs to set that expectation for those premiers coming to the table as well. And so there's a lot of moving parts on this. But we definitely, if that's where we want to wholly dedicate our time and energy around those constitutional areas, I just want you to be aware that the risk is we could be, wholeheartedly on that without a conversation amongst ourselves on programming, end up at the table where constitutional is this much, programming is this much, and we haven't got our priority areas around programming. Okay, I just want to be clear on that. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam. I believe that Vera, around the in-camera session, and that's why we've appointed them to work through that part.
Miigwech. So it's a motion that's moved by Chief Shelley making the motion. Was there a seconder to that motion? Chief LaRocca? The motion is that we will move this discussion to in camera. Is that how I understand it? So that's the motion. It's been moved and seconded. It's been moved and seconded. Questions called. All of those in favor of the motion, you want you to raise your hand up. I'll ask the counters. I'll ask those people online to put their hand up. If you're in favor of the motion to go in camera. We have 65 people, chiefs in the assembly, 60 in present here, 5 online. So I need 33 is the magic number to have resolutions, motions carried today. So all of those in favor, we done that? Those opposed to going in camera? Those opposed? None. Any abstentions? Any abstentions? Okay. So we got it?
Yeah.
So how many do we have? By lots of votes, we're going in camera. So in camera means, Adam?
So I'm the bad guy that gets to kick everybody out. Of course, chiefs, proxies can stay, all of the councils can stay.
Everyone with a white line.
Everyone with a white lanyard can stay. Advisory councils can stay. If you have a blue lanyard, you're here as an observer, as a guest. You unfortunately have to leave the room. Chiefs, if you do have council members or technicians or staff, please have them have their name registered at the registration table, and they'll sorry?
Pink and yellow happens.
Yeah, pink lanyards and yellow lanyards will have to go as well. Yeah, the casino floor.